Yeah, what's going on, everyone? We're back on the Soul Factory. Thank you for joining us. I may need to hold the mic a bit closer to my mouth for this. We're back on the Salt Factory. Just a bit of housekeeping. Those of you watching from Kenya, where registration is going on for the Tekken 254 circuit and the Kenya Combat circuit. We're doing MK11 for the first time next year. And we actually have an MK player with us for the first time. For the first time, we have a non-Tekken player on the series. We're not really wasting any time. We haven't even shown the sort of throwback sets we usually do because we don't have the time. I don't want to keep him too long. Um, Mr. Stacks is on the stream asking how long. Shouldn't be more than 45 minutes to an hour. We're going to have a lengthy chat. So, as you can see from the title, you already know this is. We've been sharing the stream around on social media. He's an NRS player for Team Gematrix from Zambia. He's the champion from the PSG MKXL champion in 2018. The CGL MK11 Season 1 champion this year, winner of multiple other tournaments. And it is Justin Banda, aka Mr. 5000. So, Justin, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing fine, Dave. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. So, as I said earlier, you're the first non-Tekken player we've had on the series. We've been talking to Tekken players, but I thought it'd be interesting to have you on because when we talk about the African FGC, you're always in a conversation as amongst the best players we have on this continent. And I thought it'd be
Oh,
interesting for us, for everyone to hear an African story for a change. You know what I mean? Um,
I know what you mean, and thanks for having me.
all right, so everyone knows you to be a strong player on NRS fighting games, as I mentioned earlier. What we talked about MK, you play Injustice as well. Before we get into your competitive career, when did you have your first experience of fighting games? When did this journey begin, so to speak? And not competitively, like in general. When
Well,
this?
okay, like in general, when this whole thing of me competing competitively just like really began, like when I just like had that passion for playing games,
Mm-hmm.
it started in 2013, where I witnessed a couple of friends who were like playing MK. What's the
Wait,
name
hold
again?
on, hold on, hold on,
MK
hold on.
MK3.
This is when you started playing fighting games, like in general. I'm asking in general, not competitively. Because if you started playing fighting games in 2013 and you're this good now, like that's remarkable.
Okay, I wouldn't say I started playing them competitively in 2013, but I had no experience with fighting games before 2013. I
Interesting.
started, yeah, but I started playing fighting games, like let me just say Mortal Kombat competitively
Hmm.
in 2014.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how what is it that sort of drove you into this competitive side of the game? Was there like a vibrant is there a vibrant competitive scene in Zambia, or is it something else that sort of drove you to made you take fighting games more seriously?
For the first thing, when we say about that, there is a fight game community in Zambia that actually drove me to actually get into fighting games and play them actually more competitively.
Hmm.
And mostly it was just a couple of my friends that we just like really wanted to get good at that game. I can remember the days of MK9. Let me just say. We used to gather ourselves, go to game stations and stuff, and then play games competitively, play
Hmm.
money matches, play a random first team just to see who actually be better than who. And
Hmm.
then from there, we used to make a couple of tournaments thanks to Mr. Wiz, who was like somebody who was really interested in growing the esports gaming community in Zambia.
Mm-hmm.
So we would go by his office, have a couple of sets, first to 10. He would stream them just to encourage people like us who like really wanted to get good at that game. So from there, we usually just like got interested in that, and from there, that's when I just like got the passion of just like I just like really wanted to be good at the game, like just to be better and be better than anyone else out there. So that's where I just like got the passion.
So this Mr. Wiz guy you mentioned is I would assume like a tournament organizer or someone, a sort of community leader that encouraged you
Yeah,
guys
some
to keep playing the game.
definitely, yeah, definitely a community leader that encouraged us to keep playing the game, especially back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but yeah.
Alright, so you stopped playing fighting games competitively 2014, and
Hmm.
when is it that you first found out about Team Gematrix, or when did you first get into contact with them? How did they notice you, or what was that whole process like uh, when they
Okay.
signed you?
Okay. So what really happened was the first thing I heard about Team Geometrics was 2017 when they hosted their first tournament called Stone Gem Tournament.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was a tournament hosted by Cholwe and Mr. Prince himself.
Mm-hmm.
Us being, there are some like we really wanted to compete in a tournament like that. So when we saw that opportunity that came to us, we actually went there. So after I paid my participation fee and I participated in that tournament, to my surprise, I actually ended up winning the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And after I won that tournament, it wasn't like just like it was just like a week later, and then Cholwe and Mr. Prince actually sent me an email
Mm-hmm.
saying they were fishing out top three players, or let me just say top players who actually like performed really well in that tournament.
Mm-hmm.
So they scheduled up a meeting. So about the top three players who actually came out like first, second, and third.
Mm-hmm.
They just for meeting to discuss a proposition that might actually sign us and improve our by promoting what we do and what not, and helping us travel and all that.
And
So yeah.
when did this tournament take place? I don't think you had mentioned that. What year was this?
Okay. This tournament actually took place in 2017.
Oh, okay. So just two.
2017.
Oh, it's only 2 years ago. Okay, interesting. Uh,
Yeah.
how would you say how much support did you say Team Gematrix have given you in raising your profile and advancing your competitive career since you joined them?
They really have helped me a lot. They've actually done more than just exposing me. They've helped me grow as a person as well,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, helped me grow as a person as well. I've learned a lot from them. Good part of that is good leadership skills and team communication as well. And they've really helped me with the gaming passion because I actually never thought I would be able to travel
Mm-hmm.
the world and just play games and do what I just love to do.
Mm.
Yeah, in my own safe space and whatnot. So I really owe it to them, and I'm really glad that they chose me to be part of their team, and they've really helped me a lot. And because it has helped me to move and meet other cultures and other people
Yeah.
that we actually get to interact and just like who have the same passion that I have,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is gaming and all that. So
Yeah. I mean,
yeah, it's good. It's really good.
traveling in general is always fun, and being able to travel to do something you like playing fighting games must be even
Mm.
better. So that's really good to
Yeah,
hear.
that's it.
So which are there any players or personalities, if any, that you've looked up to or tried to emulate throughout your competitive career, like any other MK players that you see as role models, or you know that,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. So apparently, a lot of people might expect me to say Sonic Fox, but
Mhm.
apparently it's not Sonic Fox that I actually looked up to.
Mhm.
I from my beginning, I've always looked up to Happy Power and Honeybee.
Mhm.
Yeah, I know they're low key good, but those were like I would just say I'll put them as gods to me because back then when I used to like just see them play and their gameplay and their decision making when they're playing, back then it just like used to move me and I just like really wanted to get better and probably get to compete with them one day. So yeah, so it was Honeybee and Happy Power, and Sonic Fox after he became like the best after that. So I was just
Yeah.
like, yeah, Sonic Fox is good.
I mean,
Yeah,
yeah. I
so
mean,
I
I
was always
mean,
looking
I
up.
mean, everyone at this point, I think everyone in the FGC respects Sonic Fox, regardless of what game you play. Like everyone recognizes him
Yeah, definitely
as one of the
as the
best
best.
ever. Yeah. But to hear Honeybee
Hmm.
and to hear Honeybee kind of surprises me. But that's not someone. That's not a
Yeah,
name a lot of people mention. But that's really interesting.
yeah,
So
yeah. For me, it's been Honeybee.
okay. So I wanted to ask you about how you go about getting ready for a tournament, because I think this is something that a lot of players in at least at the grassroots level overlook. Like if they're looking to win tournaments or place highly. Like in my own experience, something I've noticed a lot of players do is fail to identify mistakes that get them eliminated through like watching their sets or like getting a second opinion from people watching on like from the sidelines or others watching at the tournament, and even simple things like keeping your body in check. Like I've personally found myself performing worse at tournaments when I don't get a good night's sleep. So I think this is something that a lot of like players who aspire to play at the top level overlook when they go into tournaments. So what do you do to prepare for a tournament, especially at like big events? Is it something that all players should take seriously if like they're looking to for a good performance?
I make sure I get a good night rest.
Hmm.
And before I travel for any tournament, I make sure that I seek advice from people that I usually practice with, and to make sure that they give me appropriate advice that I can use when I'm on a big stage like that. I usually talk to Mooch. He gives me advice about how the game's supposed to be played and all that. And
Hmm.
initially, the whole group, I'll make sure that I play a lot of games, practice with one of the best people that I know are really good at the game in Africa.
Hmm.
And yeah, so once I'm on stage, I make sure that I have a bottle of water with me,
Hmm.
and just to make sure that I had enough rest before the tournament, and
Hmm.
I just stick to my game plan of how I'm just going to play and perform at the stage.
As
But when I'm playing online, I usually have a friend of mine over to actually just talk to me as I play and crack jokes that
Mhm.
actually
That calms you down.
help. Yeah, that actually calms me down, and
Mm.
I actually just end up playing my game as somebody's just there talking as if we're just talking as if we're just it's just nothing, as if we just take it as if it's just nothing, and we just
Mm.
basically just talk about random things as I play. And
Yeah. So we, I think something else, at least for international events, something we were told by Mickey. He went to Dubai recently to play in a tournament. It was like it's also good to carry like an extra controller and extra USB cables, because
oh,
when it comes down to like when you go for your set, it's like you never know whether there could be a malfunction or something like that. So
that's true.
like
That's true. That's true.
Like I guess it could even apply for locals. You like just covering all the bases and making sure you're fully ready. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So of course, outside Zambia, I mentioned this earlier on the stream. You're recognized as one of the best MK players on the continent, if not the best at this point. You won the PSG MKXL tournament in April last year here in Kenya, as I mentioned earlier. And I had personally attended that event. I was there watching, and from what I saw, it seemed like you won it pretty convincingly.
Oh, for
And
real?
yeah,
That's good.
and a lot of Kenyans were quite salty. You were playing Priest in the grand final, and we all wanted him to win. And you took that trophy back to Zambia, but it's all good. Uh, and more recently, you came out on top for season one of the ACGL MK11 competition. That obviously went down in South Africa. So
Yeah.
first off, how have you found the experience of playing tournaments abroad? Has it exposed you to new play styles? Has it allowed you to build relationships within other communities that you could learn from in terms of sharing tech? I know you're friends with Mr. Stacks, who is a Kenyan MK player. So
Yeah.
what's that overall experience been like for you, sort of playing tournaments abroad?
The whole experience for me has been great, if it's not awesome already,
Hmm.
because I've actually met a lot of people that I actually never even thought that I'll meet, and uh, get to talk about games, how we can help each other level up, and all that.
Hmm.
It has actually helped me improve my gaming. Let me just say my gameplay in general, because I reached a point where I thought I wouldn't actually be able to play other people aside from the people from in Zambia and all that.
Hmm.
And that actually, to my surprise, I actually met a lot of people that are actually good at the game, and we actually help each other share tech and all that.
Hmm.
Um, so basically, there are a lot of people out there that I've played with, and especially internationally, I've met a lot of people like Mr. Aquaman
Hmm.
and Honeybee. Let me just say all the top players that I've actually dreamed of meeting. I actually met them, and to my surprise, I was invited to a private party last year, Evo 2018,
Hmm.
to participate in War of the Gods Evo offline, and there were like every top player in one room where we were invited to actually just catch a few games and I took that opportunity to actually get some advice that can actually help me to grow competitively and play good and help my other African people level up and all that. So it's been great. It's been good.
Yeah, and I find value in talking to someone like you because as you said earlier, you've got into contact with some of the best players in the world, and this as you gather this experience and this knowledge from these big tournaments, you can bring it back here in Africa and help other African players improve their game as well. Um, and that sort of ties into my next question, which is from the African tournaments you've played in,
Okay.
which players or overall scenes, other than yourself or Zambia in general, have would you identify as the strongest on the continent? Um,
As not Zambia precisely, but Africa, right?
yeah.
Okay. Aside from me, there's always like a nemesis of mine that I've always like actually faced, especially in online tournaments and probably offline since I was in South Africa.
Hmm.
And that's Brandon. Brandon is really good. Actually, as good as me, maybe even better than me. I don't
Mm.
know. But Brandon is really good. Yeah, he's the guys from South Africa. He really plays good neutral. He just has the good knowledge of how the game's supposed to be played. Especially, it goes back from Injustice as well.
Mm.
MKX and MK11 as well is really good. Is really good, and if you want to get to know more about the game, you can actually talk to him about it. is actually really good. So if it's not Brandon, if second one is I would put Qjoy, one of second seed here in Zambia. The guy
Okay.
is really good. Yeah, there's Killjoy and there's Mr. Stacks there in Kenya.
Mm.
And there's Mooch called Cortex. He's really good for his neutral and his patience as well. He really understands the way the game's supposed to be played, and he really gives good advice about it.
Mm.
And there's actually X-Ray 92 Mark.
Mm-hmm.
He's also really good at the game as well. Really plays good neutral. He's a good masher. I laugh out loud. uh, yeah, so I wouldn't. There are a lot of players like Zaza. Of course, Zaza is really good.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You can actually tell by his performance as well from Kenya and the recent season, SCGL season one,
What he
the one
came?
he
Zaza
participated
came.
as well.
Was it third or fourth in that tournament? I remember
Yeah, he
looking
came
at
out
his.
fourth.
Oh, fourth. Okay.
Yeah.
Alright, so it's everyone here from the outside. Obviously, I'm a Tekken player, so I'm not that involved in the NRS community here. But from the outside looking in,
Yeah.
it's. I'm happy you mentioned Stacks because I was saying from the outside looking in, it seems like he's mopping everyone in that community, and
Yes.
he talks a lot of shit, but at the same time. He at the same time he seems to offer a lot of advice and help people level up. He sometimes is
Yeah.
humble enough
Yeah.
to even call himself a scrub. Um, and yeah,
Yeah.
it for me it would be interesting to see all these players get to travel and really test themselves against some of the best players in the world as you have. Um,
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
and again, that's a perfect segue into my next question. Outside Africa, you mentioned earlier you went to Evo last year. You had the privilege of going there, and you finished joint 73rd out of 361 players on Injustice 2, which is a more than respectable result in a tournament of that scale. You got to go to Celtic Throwdown this year after winning the ECGL MK11 competition. He came joint 25th out of 103 players, which again is more than respectable. Um, so, in your opinion, what needs to happen? This is a discussion a lot of us have in our community. Um, in terms of Africans on the global stage. In your opinion, what needs to happen in the long term for Africans to become some of the strongest on the planet? Like we know the potential is there. We had an Ivorian Tekken player called Akon Finish joined 25th out of 1900 players for Tekken 7 at Evo this year. And
Yeah.
across multiple games, there's a lot of other formidable players like around Africa. Hurricane, the Street Fighter 5 player, is another name that comes to mind. So and there's all those names you mentioned in the NRS community. So we know the potential is there, but what in your opinion what needs to happen if the African FGC is to rise and be recognized as one of the best on on the planet?
Okay. So basically, what actually needs to happen for us to actually level up to a point where we can actually get to be the best as well in Africa is if there is a way Africa could have good Mortal Kombat servers to actually help us connect with top players who are out there and who are out there. Yeah, as well, so that we can have the exposure to actually play
Mm-hmm.
with the best out there. Because if we just compete in our local African FGC scene, we might get too comfortable. Maybe we might be thinking that maybe we might even think that we're good at a certain level. We think we're good and better than them.
Mm-hmm.
But when we actually travel out there, you just find that those guys are actually on a way different level than you actually thought you were. So if we had like the exposure to actually be able to actually get more games with them and practice with them, hear more about how the game's supposed to be played with them, would actually get good at the game as well. Aside from that, what we can do is just practice, get online, research a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, formulate good strategies, even though you can't travel to actually compete with them because things get out here in Africa sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
You can actually just formulate good strategies that can actually help you play your game when you actually get the opportunity to travel and go that side as well.
Mm.
That is, if we had maybe a little bit more sponsors and teams,
Mm-hmm.
actually help a lot of players who are like really good at this game to really have that hope of competing to a point where they actually think that they can win the game because they will be motivated to actually get good and actually fight for country so that they can represent and whatnot.
Mm.
I think from my end, those are the three things or three major aspects that can really
It's
help us grow.
it's interesting that you mention sort of having a richer online experience to be able to connect with top players from other regions. And I think, from what I've seen anyway, MK11 has very good netcode. I think that would vary from game to game. I can personally say Tekken has trash netcode. As good as the game
Yeah,
is, as good as the game is, the online the games online is not good at all.
is trash. Yeah,
But
yeah.
but
I've heard
but
about that.
but to your point again, as you said, like if you can't travel, all you have is the other players in your community. So you can't.
Yeah,
So you have to use them to keep practicing and keep
to keep
uh,
practicing.
yeah,
Yeah.
keep practicing, keep testing out different tech. And as you mentioned, going online, doing your research, brushing up on your frame data, all that sort of stuff. And
Yeah.
yeah, and I would also say a lot of governments here in Africa still sort of stigmatize or see
Yeah.
esports in a negative way. So sort of
Hmm.
lobbying more financial support, as you mentioned, sponsors and all that sort of stuff, more financial support
Hmm.
in the way of building up infrastructure, and allowing more gamers to get into the community and do what they do. I think that's something else
Yeah.
that can be done, if we
Hmm.
if we're to get up to that level that the other regions are in, as a whole anyway. um, so we both know the fighting game community has been growing in numbers over the past few years around the world. I think it's safe to say Street Fighter, Tekken, and Smash are like the most popular fighting games out there at the moment. Though in Africa, I know MK is probably uh, say more popular than Street Fighter. Tekken, MK, in Africa in general, in my personal opinion, I've seen are the most popular ones. So
Hmm.
uh, we always talk about holding regular tournaments and stuff to attract new people into the scene and get them into the community. But do you think um, sort of fostering tolerance and respect in the community is just as important as getting new people in? And maybe that's if what I mean by that is a lot of people might get discouraged. Like the FGC can be pretty toxic. Like, let's be real.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
So,
true.
and a lot of new players that come in can be discouraged by what they see on like Twitch chats, or even at events. Even at events, people can get pretty rowdy. So, do you think it's important to people to maintain respect um, within for people to maintain respect or foster a culture of respect within the community if the scene is to grow as a whole? I just wanted to quickly get your thoughts on that.
Is it important to? I didn't get that last part. Is it important to?
To sort of foster a culture of respect, if the scene is to grow as a whole, if we're going to retain new players and encourage more people to get involved in the FGC and in esports in general.
Yeah, I would say yes, because respect is important for people, because the more you keep on disrespecting each other, let me give an example. For example, us, let me just say me and Brandon are like good soccer players here in Africa.
Mm-hmm.
And if we keep guarding each other over our skills and whatnot, like keep like trash talking each other and whatnot, that won't help our community grow, especially in esports and whatnot, because people who probably maybe look up to us, like probably look up to us as one of the best Africa has to offer, might really not have the motivation to actually like probably get into this fighting scene and stuff, because they'll be having thoughts like, oh, what if I become great? Would this the negative negative influence I'll be receiving from guys from the FGC and whatnot?
Mm,
Will they be trash talking me like this?
mm,
Is it worth it and whatnot? So I would really say it's good to give each other respect
mm,
as a sign of going forward and helping the people who be coming after us to actually have the motivation to actually get into the fighting scene and
mm.
get to play games and actually have the motivation to be good, so that they can give respect to the other players who be coming up as well, so that it continues just like that as well. I think it's quite important.
And yeah, to your point again. Sorry, I had. Sorry, I've just lost my train of thought. I was basically saying, I agree with you because, as I said earlier, the FGC can get pretty toxic, especially when you look at like Twitch chats at events. You see a lot of people spewing a lot of hate. Obviously, like friendly trash talk in the middle of a match is fine, like to throw your opponent off and stuff like that. But like in general,
Yeah.
it's good to be positive towards the other players and give people sort of positive role models if we're going to grow the esports scene in general.
The look
I,
person.
I think from my personal I'm not going to mention any names. Some people on the chat might know who I'm talking about. A few names that I have in mind, but some people get caught up with sort of how good they are in terms of their skill level, and they use that they use that to sort of step all over everyone else rather than sharing that knowledge with them and
Very
elevating
generally.
and elevating the community as a whole. So it's good you say that because I think it's important for us to have like good role models if people that come after us are to keep the scene alive and grow the scene in general.
Yeah.
So um,
That's true.
this should be the last question. Obviously, 2019 is basically over. What are you looking forward to in 2020? Are there any events you're looking to attend in particular? Any objectives you'd like to achieve? Anything you'd like to see next year? General thoughts, general plans for 2020. I might ask you one more question after
Okay.
this. I just thought of something, but go ahead.
Oh, okay. So my general plan for 2020 is basically just simple. I really want to create more content
Okay.
for my for my channel
Mm-hmm.
and and Jame as well. And for basically for maybe travel for a couple of tournaments that are in planning right now
Mm-hmm.
for 2020 as well, and just get more games and catch a few L's.
Yeah, you always have to catch your L's if you're gonna improve. Yeah,
Yeah, that's true.
yeah.
Yeah, so basically just catch some L's, get better, and maybe play a couple of good players that are better than me,
Mm-hmm.
especially that, yes, to help me level up. Yeah, I usually play with Happy Power sometimes. That guy usually help me level up and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, aside from the FGC people. So yeah,
So the content creation, I assume, obviously, content creation is a good way to raise your to promote your brand and raise your profile in general. But uh, is um, helping your local community one of the objectives with with creating content? Like, are you looking to make tutorials, or is it like just like streaming in general, or something like that?
Tutorial. Oh, okay. Basically, what I do is just live stream and stream more of of my gameplay and whatnot. But I was thinking about getting more into the tutorial aspect
Mm-hmm.
because we have, especially here in Zambia, we have a lot of kids who come to us.
Mm-hmm.
Especially me, telling me as like, yo, how do I get good at this game? I really need to play like a god like you. How
Mm.
do you, what do I need to do? How do I get good? Where do I start from?
Mm.
And all that. So I was thinking of making a few tutorials as well
Mm-hmm.
in 2020 so that I can actually help people, like a couple of people who have approached me, or maybe if not the people, maybe just the world who are actually just watching, of to get a good understanding of how the game's supposed to work and how you're supposed to play it and all that,
Mm.
how I play it, how I find more success in playing it. So
Mm.
maybe I can just share that with the rest of the world and just see how that works out as well.
Hey, very interesting. So last question. Usually when I have guests on here, obviously I usually have Tekken players or Tekken personalities on. As I said earlier, the first non-Tekken player we've had on the series. Usually I ask them who their Tekken 7 top 5 are. But obviously you're playing MK11 at the moment. I see. I quietly see guys in our community here in Kenya sort of debate the tier list and stuff like that. Although personally, I think ultimately it comes down to your skills as a player and your approach to the game rather than the character. But nonetheless,
Yeah.
I wanted to find out like your MK11 top 5. Like for say from for a scrub like me. Let me say I'm a scrub in MK. I'm good at Tekken, but I'm scrub at MK. So for a scrub like me,
Yeah.
who would you list as your MK11 top 5? Like which characters would you point me towards to to um, to mess people up with, basically?
Okay, to mess people up.
Yeah.
Basically, you can just pick. First thing I would advise you is just if you want to really like irritate people when you're playing this game, just pick Cetrian.
I was expecting
Cetrian, you
Cetrion.
can
I've seen a
find.
lot of Cetrion.
Yeah, so you can be. Cetrian's got some good buttons, if I can say that,
Hmm.
and she's got good safe pressure as well, and she can literally zone you out to death as well.
Hmm.
So Cetrion, if it's not Cetrion, you can always pick Liu Kang.
Hmm.
Liu Kang is really good, although he was recently nerfed, but he's still solid, still really, really, really solid as well.
Hmm.
If it's not Liu Kang, you can always pick Jackie Briggs. If
Hmm.
Jackie Briggs is still solid,
Hmm.
and my top four would be uh, Garrus. Garrus is still strong as well,
Hmm.
and Cabal. Cabal's got good safe. He's got some
Yeah.
good safe pressure and
Yeah.
some good tools that you can actually use to mix people up in the game. That was like four, right?
You said Cetrion, Liu Kang, Jackie, Geras, and Cabal. So that's 5.
Okay, that's five. Yeah, that's
And
my top five.
it's interesting. I don't really hear much about Cabal when people talk about top characters in MK11. Early on in the game, I know Aaron Black was talked about a lot, but it seems like
Mm-hmm.
he's been nerfed quite a bit. It's
Been
interesting.
there quite a bit.
It's interesting you mentioned Cabal because the last time I played MK11, I was playing with Beast. I don't know if you remember Beast, the Kenyan player,
Yeah, yeah,
and
I do remember this.
he really messed me up with Cabal, and I got salty. If he's watching, I need to go back for a run back. So Cetrion, Jackie, Liu Kang, Geras, Cabal. Interesting. So that's your
Yeah,
MK11 top 5. Yeah?
that's my MK11 top five.
All right, Justin. Thank you so much for taking the time today, sort of sharing your story and sharing some insight on the experiences you had and how you can improve the African FGC. And yeah, all I can say is keep doing what you're doing, keep grinding, and hopefully we get to see you on the big stages again next year. And yeah,
Thanks,
good.
man.
Yeah, all the best of luck to you, and yeah, just keep it up, man.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
All right, so yeah, so that's gonna be the end of the interview, guys. Again, thanks to everyone for watching. Again, terribly sorry about a few of the connection hitches we had early on. It ran smoothly for like the last half of the interview, which I'm grateful for. And yeah, thanks to all of you for joining us today. As usual, the interview will be up on YouTube next week and AfriPods. I have quite a bit of editing to do to cut out all the breakups and everything. But yeah, again, thanks for joining us and have a good evening. Take care. Peace.